What's going on, everybody? Thank you all for joining me today. If you haven't already, please make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. Most importantly, please make sure that you are following me on Telegram at TD Media Group to help circumvent social media censorship and shadow banning. And with the introduction out of the way, let's get into today's news. And today, once again, we are headed back to New York to discuss Big Tish, Letitia James, the Queen of New York, until that federal indictment comes down and lands her in Rikers Island or even hopefully Alcatraz, right? But until then, we have to circle the block and come back to Big Tish, because what I want to do is kind of, you could say, close this kind of chapter out as it pertains to the story that I reintroduced to the public, you can say, last week over the weekend, right? Now, for those of you who don't know, if you're watching this video for the first time, over the weekend, I reintroduced a story that was pretty much buried, which occurred back in 2022 when Letitia James was running for re-election. She had a situation in which one of her top aides of 10 years, Ibrahim Khan, was slapped with multiple sexual harassment complaints, to which then Letitia James would go on to put in place an independent investigation to find out whether or not this stuff was true. In the middle of the independent investigation, she told her aide of 10 years essentially to kick rocks, right? He was given instructions by her office to not have any contact with Letitia James, to not have any contact with any of the staffers, and to not have any contact with any of the associates of the staffers. Essentially, just go away in the middle of this investigation. And what made this such a big deal is that this all occurred during Letitia James' attempt in 2022 to go at re-election, right? She was in the middle of her re-election campaign. Obviously, she would win, but the contradiction lies in the fact that when it was Governor Cuomo who was facing multiple sexual harassment complaints, Letitia James was very bullish in making it public and showing that she was on the side of women and that she wanted to protect all women, and that we can't have people in position of power taking advantage of women in this way. But when the shoe was now on the other foot, and it's her top staffer, her top aide of 10 years, who is now fallen into all of these sexual harassment complaints, now all of a sudden you want to do a silent independent investigation in which you let your man of 10 years skirt off in the dead of night during the investigation, and then kept it all under wraps until you won your re-election bid. Then once Letitia James won her re-election bid, now all of a sudden you want to bring this to light and make it public. So this is obviously, for those of us with common sense, it was a cover-up. You covered it all up from the very beginning to make sure that, number one, you protect your top aide of 10 years, and number two, you were able to secure your re-election. At least in my opinion, I think, I believe, I assume, right? Allegedly, right? And now here's the thing also, she doesn't deny the fact that she kept quiet on this. She doesn't deny it at all. Letitia James, that is. But her excuse for it was very bizarre. She claimed that she kept this quiet in the investigation, the independent investigation, quiet to protect the victims. We all know how ridiculous that is, and that makes absolutely no sense. By keeping things quiet, you're not protecting the victims. You're protecting yourself, your re-election bid, and your top aide of 10 years. Well, then what would go on to happen after that? Well, one of the women who was a former Letitia James staffer that was victimized, allegedly, we have to say, by Ibrahim Khan, right? Letitia James' top aide of 10 years, she went on to go on and sue Letitia James for that cover up. And that's what I want to dive into next, because as we go in through this article here, there's a lot of interesting information that comes up in which there seems to be a pattern of people who engage in sexual harassment that Letitia James hires and then seemingly is allowed to skirt off in the dead of night without any consequences. So let's dive into this article here. It's titled "Ex-Aide Sues New York Attorney General Letitia James Over Alleged Sexual Harassment Cover-Up." And once again, I guess technically we have to say it's alleged, but if you have common sense and based off all the information that we've gathered so far over the weekend and what you're going to see now, you know, as I like to say, in my opinion, I think, I believe, I assume this woman is guilty, not the accuser, but Letitia James for the cover up. But once again, that's just my opinion. Anyways, let's dive into this article here. A former aide sued New York Attorney General Letitia James Thursday for allegedly covering up sexual harassment and assault by her ex-chief of staff, Ibrahim Khan, who, and I quote, stuck his tongue down the victim's throat, new court papers show. Sofia Quintanar, 33, alleges that Khan, who resigned after being slapped with multiple sexual harassment complaints, forcefully shoved his tongue down her throat at a political fundraiser in Brooklyn on November 17th of 2021, according to her Manhattan Supreme Court lawsuit. She accuses the AG's office of covering up the allegations against Khan, James's chief of staff for 10 years, and of making misleading statements to the press that he was on vacation or with a sick relative when he was actually suspended for 2 months pending an investigation into the claims. Wow. Now, obviously, once again, I have to say it again. This is alleged, right? It's alleged. But as you can see here, in the middle of the investigation, right? And this was substantiated in the last article that we read also, that Mr. Khan was told to essentially kick rocks. But what we weren't privy to up until now is that apparently during the time that this investigation was going on and he was told to kick rocks for 2 months, allegedly, the AG's office was spinning a narrative that he was on vacation and taking care of sick relatives when he was actually being investigated for these sexual harassment claims. If that's true, that is very sick, disgusting, and twisted, and shows a person within Letitia James that will do anything, absolutely anything, to keep, remain, and maintain power. She'll do absolutely anything. The article continues to read. The complaints were filed before Election Day and kept quiet as James cruised to victory, sources previously told the Post. Following the probe, the AG's office concluded on December 2nd that Khan had engaged in sexual harassment and misconduct involving two former staffers, right? Still, get this here, Khan was allowed to resign on November 22nd ahead of the conclusion of the investigation with pay through until the end of the year without any statements about the accusations. They just let this man skirt off in the dead of night with all of his money. But then again, this is a guy that's been with Big Tish or Big Tush, right? This is a guy that's been with Big Tush for 10 years. So they're very close, very strong bond. And it appears that she was not going to allow him to go down, right? She allowed him to resign very quietly without having it to make any statements about it, not having to acknowledge the accusations, with full pay throughout the end of the year, just to make sure he's nice and comfy as he seeks out, I guess, new employment. Whew, man, and this is the woman that runs around here screaming at the top of her lung, at the top of her, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess at the top of her lungs, we'll just say. But this is the woman who runs around here screaming that, no one is above the law. No one's above the law, essentially and apparently, except for Big Tish. She's the only one that's above the law, and a close staffers of her that have been with her for over a decade, right? If you're a friend of Big Tish, apparently it appears as if you are above the law as well. But look at this here, because this is the part in the article where we're going to see that there appears to be a pattern of this kind of stuff happening with staffers that are close to Big Tish, right? It appears that there's a pattern of this. Here's what I mean by that. Quintanar only learned from press reports that Attorney General James permitted Khan to resign without formally revealing the reasons for his departure. The suit charges she is suing the AG, James's campaign, and Khan for unspecified damages. The claims against James, her office, and her campaign include negligence, discrimination, and retaliation. Whatever happened to protect and believe all women? I guess, once you go against the grain of whatever the DNC has going on in their plans, that stuff goes out the window, right? Quintanar alleges that James and the office should have protected her and that they were negligent in hiring and supervising Khan, according to the suit. The lawsuit states that James in 2019 also allowed a press office deputy to quietly resign under similar circumstances. So there appears to be a clear pattern. There appears to be a clear pattern. And this is just so rich. Once again, this is the woman that went after Governor Cuomo like a rabid pit bull concerning all the sexual harassment claims and accusations that were surrounding him, right? She went after him like a pit bull, but within your own office, there appears to be a pattern of this type of harassment going on where women do not feel comfortable working with you and for you. And the men that make these women uncomfortable and engage in this type of activity where they're essentially assaulting these women, they're always allowed to just quietly resign in the dead of night. I find this very troubling and unbelievably hypocritical. But once again, we are talking about the DNC, right? So what else is new? Let's carry on. Quintanar said in a statement, she hopes coming forward will help women of color to have a voice in the Me Too movement. Not if you go against the grain of the DNC. While I fear the effect that this might have on my career, I know that fear should never stand in the way of doing what is right. Quintanar's statement reads, I hope I can give other survivors that courage to find their voice and hold those in positions of power responsible for their actions when they demonstrate the belief that they are above the law. Her lawyers, Douglas Wigdor and Vladi Lucille, said, this case is not about politics. It's about abuse of power, the abuse of appropriate oversight, and the vindication of the rights of Miss Quintanar. It appears that when it comes to Big Tush, abusing power is just something that she does best. That's just what she does best. And as it pertains to, just abusing power and just being able to silence stories like this, I looked for follow-ups just to see what has gone on with this suit and things of that nature. And there's no information on this stuff, man. You can't find anything as it pertains to follow-ups. There you just find nothing but dead ends concerning this. This is literally all that I've been able to find. Here's this here, right? Now, this has been going on obviously since, late 2022. And Big Tush has been going out of her way since then to try and get this case dismissed. So literally for years now, Big Tush has been trying to get rid of this case. Look at this here. This is in January 16th of 2024. New York judge held that Sofia Quintanar's claim against the office of the Attorney General can proceed. Okay, like I said, Big Tush has been trying to get this dismissed since forever in the day. Today, January 16th, 2024, the Court of Claims held that Sofia Quintanar may proceed with her lawsuit against the state office of the Attorney General, OAG. Ms. Quintanar sued the OAG, alleging she was essayed by Ibrahim Khan, Attorney General Letitia James, then Chief of Staff, on November 17th of 2021. The state sought to dismiss Ms. Quintanar's claims. The Court of Claims denied the motion, finding, among other things, that the complaint alleged that the OAG knew Khan was likely to commit SA because of past allegations against him. The decision is a major victory and sends a clear message that institutions that turn a blind eye to SA in their midst can be held accountable for their conduct. Now, as it pertains to officially being held accountable, with consequences and damages paid out and things of that nature, that has yet to happen. That hasn't happened yet. And once again, like I said, it's just there's no information out here following this, right? The last little piece of information that I could really find was this here. And yes, there's a paywall up here where they want me to register and so on and so forth. I just refuse to do that, honestly. I'm so sick and tired of having to create account after account after account after account. I'm not doing that. But this comes from law.com, and we're going to be a little bootleg here. I can still read what they have here, even with the paywall up. So let's look at this here, right? But this is funny. Attorneys for the state of New York want the appellate division, third department, to review a court of claims judge's decision not to dismiss Attorney General Letitia James and her office from a lawsuit alleging her former top aide as aide, a former office press secretary. Court of Claims Judge W. Brooks DeBow denied the state's motion to dismiss the lawsuit on November 27, determining plaintiff Sofia Quintanar's allegations against James' former chief of staff Ibrahim Khan state a claim for negligent hiring, retention, and supervision, right? So this is the third time here that we're seeing Big Tush is attempting to get this case thrown out. She has failed every single time, but she's still pushing and moving forward, like I said, to get this case thrown in the trash. But it hasn't worked yet. I'm glad that it hasn't worked yet because she should be held accountable. But until then, we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Like I said, as far as this case is concerned here, there's just no information. There's nothing. I've never seen, a situation like this be kept this under wraps and this quiet, which is with no real updates at all whatsoever. Big Tush has done a good job of silencing this matter, unfortunately, and hopefully, videos like this can help to get this kind of stuff out, because ultimately, at the end of the day, no one is above the law. Big Tush, right? And you want it to be famous, right? You wanted all the spotlight and all the acclaim for taking down Trump, but now all that has turned on you, and it looks like you're going to be the one taken down, and that's a good thing. And that also does it for today's news. So thank you all for joining me today. Please hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. Share this video on your social media platforms. And also do not forget to follow me on Telegram at TD Media Group. The link to my Telegrams in the description box below and pinned in the comment section as well. Thank you all for your time. Until the next video, peace and have a great afternoon.